Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. West Ham, Crystal Palace recap. We have 2 Crystal Palace fans here, 1 West Ham. So my name is Mikey, underneath the Matchday 365 Twitter account. Palace fan myself. So I'll let you 2 introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Amesy. Unfortunately, also a Crystal Palace fan.
I'm Leon, and I'm the West Ham fan here to solely defend the club I love.
Yeah, it is like a coincidence that our first episode, like right when we started this, it was 2 Palace fans and a West Ham fan, and then they played on Tuesday, so it worked out well.
Tuesday.
That happened.
How fortunate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it worked really well. It came in good timing, especially for me, given the result.
When we start and talking about this game, I mean, I woke up last night, middle of the night, covered in sweat, dreaming about Tomas Soucek. It was horrific. It was horrific.
Oh,
I was so worried he was going to score a hat-trick from defensive midfield.
He almost did.
Yeah, almost did.
But yeah,
honestly,
I mean, it was painful because I love Soucek. Like, I can acknowledge he's a really good player, and I like watching him. But that made it even worse because it came against Palace. I just had to I don't know. It was hard to accept.
I mean, it's a good job he is firing, because Mikel Antonio decided he was going to take off his shooting boots for the game and just chuck the ball as close as he possibly could to going in without it actually going in all game.
He hit both posts, and then he put it wide a couple of times as well from close range.
Yeah, and the one which he fired at Guaita as well from 6 yards out.
I wouldn't say, but it's weird. I wouldn't say he had a really bad game, because he was causing us problems, serious problems. Like, he had Kouyaté and Cahill all over the shop. He just couldn't score. You probably should have scored 5 against us at least.
Yeah, and the flick for the first goal from Antonio, that was fantastic to get that back into Soucek almost off the pitch. So
I mean, let's go through it in kind of chronological order. How many minutes?
That's a good way.
Minutes in, was it?
Well, 3 minutes. Wilfried Zaha, 3rd minute. Wilfried Zaha scored.
I tell you what, it was a lovely move. Benteke just knocking it off to Zaha. Zaha, really tough skill. Just kind of just knocked it to the right of Bonner, that he gets shot off, and slapped it in the bottom corner, much like he's done against Chelsea, against many other teams.
Yeah,
he does have a good strike on him, and I was elated. I'm sure many Palace fans were, but it didn't last for long.
Yeah, that's what made it hard to take. That we only got 5 minutes to enjoy that goal, because then Soucek scored 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
It's just Wilf FC. I mean, I've just watched that Brighton Fulham game that's ended 0-0, and they just had such a lack of quality that they just couldn't score. That was like the only, but both teams had chances, but none of them had that final bit of quality. It just made me think, if we were to lose Zaha, we are literally either of these teams. We just wouldn't have the quality to score a good amount of goals.
I think the signing of Mateta is obviously that's questionable as to whether or not that would change that you can find someone that's going to put the ball in the net for you. But I mean, one thing I will say about that first goal, it is an impeccable finish. It is right in the bottom left corner from outside the box to the point, and there wasn't a lot of power on it, to the point where if it had put it slightly closer to Fabianski, there wasn't going to be enough power on it to put it past him. He probably would have tipped around the post. It was there and only there where he was going to score. And then from that point on, obviously, every time he got the ball, I thought he's going to put it in the bottom left again.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he didn't. But
the goal I'm referring to when I say against Chelsea is Palace fans will know when we beat them 2-1 at Stamford Bridge. Benteke scored a beautiful chip, and Zaha scored the other one, smashed it into the bottom corner. It was almost like a carbon copy of that one. Beautiful.
I know we're doing kind of chronological order, but before I forget, I did want to say that I feel like Benrahma, even though he didn't score, I thought he played really well. He involved himself in the game quite a bit. And on that Antonio shot that he fired right at Guaita, he was the one who made that pass, and he did beat Tyler Mitchell. down the left-hand side. So,
yeah. I mean, I think Benrahma occupied the space in between your two flat fours in the defence and the midfield very, very well. He to pick the ball up in a lot of times in tight spaces, but then a lot of time he got the ball in and he had a lot of room, which is probably at a discredit to your defensive midfielders in Luca and James MacArthur.
I mean, that's just how we're set up with two almost out and out defensive midfielders with not much athleticism. If you're going to play them in a midfield 2 and a 4-4-2, that we're always going to lose that midfield battle, and they're always going to struggle. That's why we need someone with pace, with power, someone dynamic, who we just don't have. So I think that's a tactical mistake from Roy. But if we look at your first goal, it came down your left-hand side, our right-hand side. Fornal's got loads of space on the left. We had 3 players surrounding him, but not actually pressuring him. I think we had Wardy, Townsend, the worst right side in the Premier League, and someone else. Fornals manages to clip the ball over because Chiarte has completely ball-watched and just come inside of Antonio. Massive gap between our centre-backs. Antonio's come through the middle. I mean, that's happened a lot with Chiarte because he's not a centre-back, so he does sometimes tend to ball-watch, not mark. Antonio's obviously put it in, and what interested me was Tyrick Mitchell was the closest player to stopping him score that header. Our left back, he was the only one who could come out of danger and come across to try and block that. Gary Cahill stood on the line, and that's sorry, I'm going off on a rant here, but that's the thing that Palace have been doing for seasons now. Our defenders, every time a ball comes across, we're like, oh shit, sprint back to the goal line. It's so stupid because it just leaves players unmarked. And Arnold's been doing it for seasons.
I mean,
I was just gonna say that I think that's an issue of Palace just not having the same 2 center backs in like any game this season. It's always a different pairing, which does not help with the chemistry. And yeah, Kouyaté, I will credit like Antonio and Fornals because that was a beautiful, I guess, like run of play that they had. But yeah, Kouyaté was definitely caught ball watching. And yeah, I mean, at the point where after Antonio put that ball in for Soucek, like we couldn't do anything about it. That was going to be a goal because everybody was out.
Yeah, you're right about the centre backs as well. I mean, we've played with so many different pairings this season. It's because we've got such injury-prone centre backs. Sacco is always out. Tompkins is even worse, and Cahill's so old now. Is he 36 or something? 35,
yeah.
Something like that. So he's always injured. So we're always going to have changing centre backs, and that's why we do need new signing there. And I'm grateful he's been fairly consistent there for us. We do rely on his athleticism a lot, but he's not a centre back, and he's not a permanent solution in that role.
I've got a question for the both of you. I know that I've seen it highlighted by you, Amesy, definitely, and a few other Palace fans on Twitter actually, that you need a lot more athleticism in the midfield, and something that in our 2015-16 season that Chiarte brought, which Mark Noble didn't have, which was what gave us that was what brought us that almost getting on the European places. That was kind of brought by that midfield 2 of Chiarte and Noble, where they kind of had complementary qualities as such. So I wonder if you'd consider, if you did sign maybe a couple good centre-backs, which would mean Chiarte could move into the midfield, is that what you'd want to see him alongside maybe Riedewald or James MacArthur in that midfield?
I mean, I actually have, I was thinking about this earlier today because obviously athleticism, being able to drive us forward from the midfield is something we need, and I did think Chiarte can offer that. The problem is I don't think Chiarte is as good on the ball as the rest of our centre midfielders, so he's not a long-term solution. But it was something I'd like to at least see tried, because we've tried lots of pairings in there so far, and none of them have really worked. I mean, in that season, Noble kind of plays a role where he's winning the ball a lot, lots of tackles in there, he's kind of getting everywhere, but he's also a good ball player, which is what I think Jara Riedewald could do for us in that role. So, a Jara Riedewald, Checo Chiarte partnership could work out. Jara definitely has to start, but what are your thoughts, Mikey?
No, yeah, I kind of agree. I think I had a conversation with somebody about this on Twitter, and I was saying I think with our midfielders right now, we have midfielders who are good at certain things, but they're just not all around. Like Luka is pretty decent in our own third. Like McCarthy is good in our own third. Kuyate is probably still good in our own third. Gyro is good at pushing forward, but we don't really have any like all around midfielders. And I think, like you said with Kuyate, he's just not very good in the ball. He's a great defensive midfielder, but I mean, he's not the long-term answer. So, like you said, I wouldn't mind trying it because clearly nothing's really working consistently right now. But I just think we need to go for a midfielder in the next transfer window that could be a box-to-box game-changing midfielder, because clearly none of our midfielders are like that. And I think Gyro is good, but if we could pair him with somebody like a Declan Rice or Wilfred Ndidi, like we were talking about last week, that would be the thing Palace need to progress. So
something I would add to that is had it have been you that picked up Tomas Soucek for in last season's January transfer window on loan with option, obviously we had him on loan with the option to buy in the summer. If it had been you that had kind of done that for Palace, then you would have been in a very different position, because that is the athleticism that you need. He brings that. He brings a lot going forward as well. So that's something which has improved massively for West Ham. The signing, that single signing, just allows him and Declan Rice to dominate many midfields, and that's why we're playing better football this season since he signed. Because as well as getting more results, we are playing better football because we have been able to dominate games with those two.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not talk too much about Palace here, because West Ham were very good and they've been very good all season. They've won 6 games on the bounce now, which is incredible form. I'm not sure anyone's got better form in the league.
City are the only ones that match it.
Won 6.
I believe it's 6 now, as of yesterday when they beat West Brom.
Right. Well,
I might be wrong there, but yeah.
Something's clearly working for you there. I think it does come from your midfield as well with Rice and Soucek, because they're such a strong defensive partnership. When you play that 10, I think it was Ben Rama yesterday, it gives them a lot of freedom to be creative, and it is a model that Palace can follow, I think, because we do have Eze who could play that 10 role brilliantly, and I'd love to see him being tried in that role. Obviously, it would mean we'd have to go away from 2 up front, so Zaha would have to play on the wing, but we might as well try it. We're on a terrible run of form, which is why many Palace fans are Roy out at the moment. And I'd have to agree with them. I'm not sure if I'm Roy out now or Roy out at the end of the season. It all depends on who we can get in. We're certainly in a dire situation. And you know what it is? So at the end of last season, or even the beginning of last season, everyone was looking at our squad saying it's so old. I mean, we were doing all right at that point in time. So no one was really worried about it. But everyone was saying, look, it's like the oldest squad in the Prem. This is something that needs to change. And now it's catching up with us, basically, is what's happening. We get so many injuries because they're so old. We've got no pace in the squad because everyone's so old. And it's really catching up with us.
Yeah. Leon, I guess, and Amesy, you were talking about West Ham's midfield, and I think it's such a luxury to have Soucek and Rice, because, like, if you combine the two, there's nothing they're not good at. I mean, Rice isn't a huge goal scoring threat, but Soucek is a goal scoring threat. So they balance each other out so well, and I think that's kind of like the backbone of your team now, and that's why West Ham are so good, because they don't have to worry about the midfield at all.
You would be in trouble if one of them got injured, I think.
I was about to mention that. Mark Noble, he's only actually played in the 10 role this season for us, because he doesn't have the legs to play in either of those defensive midfield roles. Because if you look at both of those players, Soucek and Rice, they are defensive midfielders by definition, but they do spend a lot of time attacking the opposition's box. Rice is one of the players that drives us forward the most, and as you say, you'll always see Soucek popping up in the box trying to get goals. So Mark Noble just doesn't have the legs to do that, and he doesn't have the only thing he's really good at these days is kind of putting in good challenges when he's next to the player. But you've got to be able to get there, and if we lose one off Soucek or Rice, we are in big trouble.
Talking about Antonio too, I know we talked a little bit earlier about him, but I think that yesterday's game was a good example of how a player, like, he didn't score any goals and he missed like 5 good chances, but you do have to credit him for being in position for all those goals. I mean, he put himself in great position. So, like we said, I don't think he played poorly. I actually think he played really well. But yeah, definitely credit.
Yeah, I agree.
Who do you have next week, Leon?
We got Liverpool on Sunday, so that is probably the unbeaten run ending. We'll see how they play against Tottenham tomorrow evening, but I can't see us picking up a result there. I just think they've got a bit too much quality. But it's not out of the window, but it would be unrealistic of me to expect a result from Liverpool.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got Wolves, which kind of kickstarts a really kind of. Is it Wolves?
No, yeah, it is Wolves.
Yeah, which kind of kickstarts a really good run of fixtures for. I almost said run of form, speaking too soon, but a really good run of fixtures for us, which couldn't come at a worse time with how we're playing. But it will be vital because if we don't pick up points there, then we're looking at a hard run of games with the teams around us starting to pick up form. We genuinely could be in trouble for relegation. I personally don't think we will, but it's just something to think about.
I think we match up really poorly with Wolves because I think Wolves are so okay with just sitting back and making sure that they don't concede, especially with Jimenez out now. And I don't think we can. I think our past at least 2 games against Wolves, we've literally generated nothing going forward.
We have a terrible record against Wolves. It's like one of the worst teams. And what's that stat you said about that game against Chelsea today? The possession one, I think.
Yeah, they conceded 78% possession, and they still eked out it off. So I'm not confident at all about this Wolves game. I mean, I could easily see us losing 1-0 or 2-0.
Yeah, I think you'll also struggle with the fluid front three of Podence and Neto and Traore. If they start running at you like Antonio did at times on Tuesday, I think your back four could struggle with that. I also think that Joel Ward needs to be dropped from the side. I thought he was very poor. I thought he offered Fornals way too much space. Fornals was actually quite good, I thought, on Tuesday night. Although he didn't actually pop up with any goals or assists, I thought he had a lot of space, a lot of time on the ball, and he put in a good performance. And I think Joel Ward gave him the time and the space to do that. So I think it has to be Klein that comes in for you boys.
It's mental though, because Klein came in, put in some really solid performances, and then just got dropped all of a sudden for Ward. In fact, I think it was when he rotated the squad and Ward came in, and he just kept his place with kind of average performances, below average performances, where Klein, anyone can see it, is clearly the better player. And I love Joel Ward, but Klein is clearly the better player. But he's lost his place, and he clearly prefers Ward because Klein's been rested for a long time now. And it's the same thing with Gyro. Gyro won our Player of the Month, and since then I don't think he's played, or he's just come off the bench or something like that, which is mental. It's just his players losing their place for no reason. Because Roy's got other favourites, like Luca, for example.
Yeah, and I'm kind of not a Joel Ward stan, but I've kind of defended him this season because I do think usually he does put in like average performances. Like he hasn't really been that bad, although against West Ham he was. So I did understand initially like Roy resting time. I think it was earlier this month to give Ward a run in. But yeah, after that, it's like we haven't seen Klein at all since then, and that's what's really surprising to me. I get giving Ward some game time, but at this point, it's like he's played like 4 or 5 games consecutively. We just haven't seen Klein. And yeah,
and I think
I was
you go.
gonna say the same thing with Gyro. Like I get giving Gyro a rest after that November. I think he won Player of the Month in November. Like maybe resting him a game or 2, but like he's just been completely dropped since then. So
yeah, I think the real bad thing about Ward continuing to start is that although, as you say, he has been putting in some all right performances defensively, and I'd much rather start him over Van Aanholt, for example. But going forward, he offers us nothing, especially with Townsend in front of him. It is just what he does. Literally everything we do come from our left side when those two are playing, which is why we so desperately need a right in in this window. Ideally, Tomorrow Gray would be great, but it's looking like we won't get him, unfortunately.
Something I would like to talk about quickly before we start running out of time is just a bit on West Ham's set piece threat, and obviously that leads us on to the third goal of the game, West Ham second, where it's just It's just a goal which I feel like I've seen about 15, 20 times this season, where Creswell picks, we win a free kick, which in my opinion wasn't a free kick. So
yeah, well, it wasn't a free kick.
No, it was a really soft one. But even so, say we've got Creswell on the free kick, and he whips it in, and there's someone on the end of it, and a lot of the time it is Soucek, and I think it's actually a good touch and finish on Soucek, take it down on his knee and then volley it in. And I think if I was Vicente Guaita, I would be annoyed that I've let that in at my near post, just because Soucek was so close to the edge of the pitch that you don't want to be letting someone squeeze it in, because he's never going to be able to get the angle on it to go far post. So if you just go big and go near post, you're going to save it. But
honestly, I saw it go in. I didn't watch the replays to see what Guaita does. I was on Twitter tweeting at Roy or something. I honestly didn't see any of the replays. It was one of those ones where I was just fuming. But as you mentioned, your set piece threat, that was also your third goal as well. It was from a set piece.
Yeah. Right.
Cahill was.
On the second, his positioning was fine, but he gave up like a foot and a half of space in between his body and the near post, and it just happened to go right in between him. So it wasn't awful, but he definitely should have stopped it.
I did see a screenshot as well of he kind of he was like kind of doing this, where obviously you're taught as a goalkeeper to make yourself massive, so it can just affect off you. But I don't like it when people are saying like we need to drop Guaita for Butland, or Guaita's form's gone downhill massively. I mean, he saves us so much. It's like every game. We see it in the Spurs game, like he made a mistake, but then he was absolutely our man of the match. And people have been getting on his back for some reason, but he's still probably our top 3 players in our squad behind Zaha, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with
definitely
the top 3.
There's no reason to drop him. We have so many bigger issues than goalkeeper. Yeah, but I do want to echo that second goal, because I do think that touch by Soucek was a really good touch, especially from a defensive midfielder. To knee it up to yourself like that is really impressive.
And touching on our second goal, the final goal, right at the end, it does bode the question: why isn't Roy starting last season top goal scorer Ayew, who assisted it, and why is he not starting Batshuayi? Obviously Benteke has been in a good run of form, but these are 2 strikers who need a run of games if they're going to start scoring goals, and they haven't been given that. So it's good that we do have options going forward. I'd maybe like to see a 4-3-3 next game with Ayew on the right, and then either Batshuayi or Benteke up front, because clearly those 2 can play, and the minutes they've been getting is nowhere near enough, especially as Roy makes the subs so late on in the game.
Yeah, I think it's harsh too, because Batshuayi had only started 4 games this season, and people are acting like he's been terrible, which I think
it's mental, isn't it?
3 of those games he hasn't been great, but in one of those games it was against Fulham, he played really well. And like, how can you can't really fairly judge a player based off of he's basically been given 4 chances this season. So
yeah, and the thing about Batshuayi is that if he doesn't score, it's easy to say he doesn't play well, because he doesn't particularly create many chances for other people. He's an out-and-out goal scorer. He's a finisher. And so he does need a run of games, and you'll start to notice his record, and you'll say, well, he's a brilliant finisher, he's a brilliant goal scorer. But as you say, if he's played 4 games, and in those games he scored like 3 offside goals or something, which obviously his fault for being offside, but it just shows that he does have it. And so if he was given a run, I think he would score a lot more. And I don't agree with people slagging him off based off his performances this season.
Leon, I do want to give you a chance, since West Ham are the team who won, and I think you're top 4 or 5 in the current table. What at this point, like, what are your hopes for this season? Like, is it like top 6 or bust for you?
So no, I mean, I think given the fact that Arsenal, who are in 9th, are currently 5 points off us, and we're in 4th, I think it would be harsh to say that I'd be annoyed if we didn't get top 6. I think it depends on whether we can get the depth in this window. I think we're looking at Jesse Lingard, who's not far off signing for us on loan, and also Chan, who's the striker for Red Bull Salzburg.
Mental.
So a backup striker is definitely a priority for us. If we get that in, then I would say European football would be a fantastic season, second half to the season, to just secure a European football place. But something I would like to see us go for is a run in the FA Cup. And given the fact that we aren't going to go down, and if we start to slip up on the European places, I think going for the FA Cup should be our top priority this season.
You'd have to beat United, which is your next.
Yeah,
FA Cup game, right?
so that's the big game. If we do beat United, then I want to see us go for the FA Cup and almost let the league take a back seat, because the difference between say 8th and 11th is not massive for us, whereas the difference between an FA Cup and no FA Cup is almost life changing for a lot of West Ham supporters who obviously we haven't won a trophy since the 1980 FA Cup. So it's been a while for a lot of
I think that's absolutely possible. And then your fans will not stop going on about that for the next 100 years, probably.
Unfortunately.
But anyway, to wrap things up, who was your man of the match yesterday?
For me, it has to be Tomas Soucek. 2 goals and a solid performance in the midfield. He also did well defensively, mopped up quite a bit. It would be Benrahma, who I want to give an honourable mention to, but the man of the match with the brace has to be Soucek. He took both goals well, so yeah, Soucek for me.
I'd go Soucek as
Fair
well.
enough.
What
Well,
about you, Amesy?
yeah, I think it has to be Soucek. I think it does.
Yeah. All right, quickly before we wrap things up, quick predictions for this weekend: Palace and West Ham. Palace Wolves. I'll go 2-0 Wolves.
Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna go Palace 1, Wolves 1, and then what's the West Ham game?
Liverpool.
And then
West Ham.
Wolves 6, West Ham 0.
Oh, you make me laugh. I'm going to say Palace 1-0 Wolves, and then I'm going to go 2-0 Liverpool.
I'll go 2-2 West Ham Liverpool. That's mine.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right,
Well,
we'll wrap it up now.
yeah, make sure you join us on Monday or Tuesday, maybe, for our next podcast.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yep. Thanks.
See you guys later.